Coming up on 10 o'clock in the East, 7 p.m. in the West, welcome to Newsmax TV's continuing coverage of America Votes 2016. Much is happening tonight. Let me reset the electoral map because some calls have just come in for different states. And this is where what Terry McAuliffe, the governor of Virginia, did in pardoning 60,000 felons looms large. Some media outlets calling Virginia for Hillary Clinton by 0.2%. Hello, pardoned felons. That's what's going on tonight. There's a lot more happening. We can tell you that polls have closed in the Mountain West, but let's continue to look at what is a brighter spot for Donald Trump, with 94% of precincts reporting in Florida, which is a must-win state in the evaluation of many for Donald Trump. Donald Trump clings to that 1-point lead. To my native North Carolina tonight, let's take a look at what we have, and there we have a dead heat, with 30% of precincts reporting Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton knotted at 49%. And to the Buckeye state of Ohio, let's take a look. And remember, no Republican has won the White House without winning Ohio. Donald Trump ahead in this tally by 6. Some other reports have him a bit further ahead. Now, here is what we would ask you to do. We want to hear from you, your assessment of how this election night is going where you live, and your thoughts about what is happening, your comments, your questions, your observations at 1-877-NEWSMAX. That's 1-877-639-7629. Now, we are very pleased to be rejoined from Newsmax New York by my dear friend and Newsmax TV colleague Steve Malzberg, who's not ready to take his leave tonight because we're just getting started. Steve, of course, you see weeknights at 7 o'clock Eastern on the Steve Malzberg Show. Also with us from New York, the former Lieutenant Governor of the Empire State, Betsy McCoy, and Skyping in tonight, Newsmax TV political analyst Dick Morris. Thanks to you all. Dick, we get the news that Virginia goes in the Hillary column by 0.2%. How important was the pardoning of 60,000 felons to give her the necessary margin?
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. I think he stole that election with people who stole and committed crimes. But let's go to the central question of who's going to be president. It looks like Trump has carried Florida. He's 10 points ahead in Ohio with about 60% of the vote in. Updating your numbers, with 66% of the vote in, he's 3 points ahead in North Carolina. That could change, but I think he's going to win North Carolina, Ohio, Iowa, and Florida. That will bring him to 259 electoral votes. He needs 11 more in order to win, 10 more in order to throw it to the House, in which case he'd win. Now, the most interesting vote out there, the closest one, is Michigan, where with about 35 or 40% of the vote counted, Trump is 4 ahead, or 5 ahead. Actually, I think it's less. I think it's 25 or 30% counted, but he is 5 ahead. If he holds on to Michigan with 16 votes, that's enough to put him over the top. Now, if he doesn't do Michigan, he's got to look at Colorado, which is 9 votes. At the moment, he's 5 points behind in Colorado with 40% counted. But when you look at the plate, it's a mail-in ballot state, and they kept tabs of the party registration of the people who mailed in ballots. And while they don't know how they voted yet, they know what their registration was. And there were 7,000 more Republican ballots than Democrats. And the independent vote went for Romney last time. So Colorado still looks pretty good, even though we're trailing there. Pennsylvania looks like it would never happen, like we're behind and have stayed behind. And Nevada has yet to close. The polls have all put us ahead, but who knows what Harry Reid's machine will do. That's 6 votes. And New Hampshire, where we have a slight lead, is 4 votes. So we're now stuck at 259 votes. looking at Michigan, Colorado, Nevada, and New Hampshire.
All right, Betsy, you know, what we're hearing here from Dick, what we're seeing for ourselves, what the nation is watching right now happen, it's just amazing. It really is an amazing occurrence when you had a media that, you know, had this in the bag for Hillary. She was going to have the fireworks. She's picking out her staff. She's picking out the curtains. Every poll said it was Hillary, 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 Hillary. And look what's happening. Boy, we must be a country full of bigots and homophobes and xenophobes and you name it.
Deplorables everywhere. The fact is that Donald Trump is exceeding the expectations of the media and the political elite. I believe he will win, but no matter what happens at the end of this process, America's political system has changed because this is delivering a loud and clear message to Washington that they better start listening. Americans are very fed up with the fact that they have not had prosperity, that Washingtonians have done nothing to foster prosperity. Donald Trump had a very clear economic message, an America First message, and that is what the Republican Party will have to embrace in the future to stay alive as a party.
And let's talk about how these two candidates are staying alive in terms of the hunt for the presidency tonight. Let's take a look at states that you may not have heard about heretofore, or we've mentioned once or twice, and in whose column they appear. And I believe they will start to show up on your screen, and we will watch them together. Louisiana, Donald Trump, the winner in the Bayou State. Next up, we have the state of Wyoming, where Donald Trump is likewise the winner tonight. The Lone Star State of Texas, where the Democrats made a lot of noise about a month ago. The Lone Star State says Donald Trump is their choice. And the state of Arkansas, where Hillary Clinton was once the first lady, they're saying Donald Trump is their first choice for president. Now, again, we very much want you to weigh in with your thoughts, and you can call us at 1-877-Newsmax. That's 1-877-639-7629. Dick, this vote in New Hampshire must be so close. You know, you would think that would be in, but the Granite State is really a razor-thin margin. What do you take away from it right now?
You have 40% of the vote counted, and Trump is 1 point ahead. He was 2 points ahead a few minutes ago. But that's 4 votes. That's not going to elect anybody president. Michigan is the question. And with 20% of the vote reporting, Trump has 50 and Hillary has 45. And that's the state to keep your eye on. Michigan could put him over the top. And it's significant that when you break down the results in Ohio, you find that in the coal states, coal counties, the blue-collar counties, where Obama won heavily, Trump is now carrying them. And I think that may carry over into Michigan, and that could be the ballgame. But also keep your eye on Colorado.
Right, well,
we have a shot there, and that's 9
why don't we go?
That's, Hampshire could do it.
Dick, why don't we go out to Colorado? We have Mike from Littleton, Colorado on the line, wants to join our conversation. Welcome aboard, Mike.
Great.
Hi,
Hey,
guys.
Mike.
You're
I'm
on.
watching the numbers. They're calling 2-point lead for Clinton now with about 40% of the vote, and we all voted. They mail us ballots. I voted at church this morning. Everybody was very pleasant. Also, keep an eye on Darrell Glenn for Senate. He's making a real horse race of it. Colorado native, Air Force Academy graduate, good guy. This state is about 40% independent. I'm a conservative independent. I'm not a Republican, but I think we've got a good chance at getting some good people in office.
Right now, we have 54% in Colorado, and Hillary had 49 to 44. But you're right, everybody has voted. The mail-in votes are there, and they just have to be tallied. I wouldn't write that off for Trump, but at the moment, Michigan looks like the more likely bet.
You know, Dick, and let me turn to Betsy to talk about this more. I am really, this whole notion of voting by mail, Colorado, the latest
Yes.
state. Out west, you've got Washington State and Oregon. And wow, Betsy, this seems to me to be a scam waiting to happen, that you will have massive
You are
fraud
so
when
right.
you mail it in.
It invites voter fraud. And it would have been even worse. Don't forget that Trump won a court decision in Arizona where Democrats wanted to go house to house collecting those mail-in ballots. Can you imagine?
Well, but you know the other thing,
Put a
while we're talking about Arizona, and
That's
this,
wild, right, Dick?
well, here's the tragedy of Arizona. You know what? That was signed into law by the governor, passed by the legislature. The current Republican Secretary of State and the Republican Supervisor of Elections in Maricopa County said before the Republican primary they would not enforce the ballot harvesting law signed by a Republican governor and passed by a Republican legislature. Whew, that was really something to see. So you wonder who, like the old Aretha song, who's zooming who in that situation? Dick, what about the mail ballots? Do you share our suspicions? 30 seconds.
It eliminates the secret ballot is the point. You get a bus full of people, or you go into a nursing home and you carry around the petition and people sign and they vote. And all of this early voting stuff is a scheme to commit voter fraud. You bus people in and they all vote. It's something that you can do with early voting and mail voting and absentee voting, where you can eliminate the secret ballot and basically pay people to vote.
Dick Morris, we appreciate your time tonight. We always value your insights and analysis. Betsy and Steve, stay right where you are. And as we are heading to break, media outlets are now reporting in the state of North Carolina that key Senate race, Republican incumbent Richard Burr retains the United States Senate seat in North Carolina, the margin of victory 51 to 45%. Now, again, we're interested in how you voted in this presidential election. You can let us know by logging on and recording your vote the way you recorded it for real at newsmaxpolls.com. There's a lot more ahead, including your phone calls at 1-877-NEWSMAX, 1-877-639-7629. We're waiting for these swing states that remain too close to call, and we'll be back with more right after this.
And welcome back to Newsmax TV's election coverage. I'm Miranda Kahn. One person is dead, several are injured after a shooting at a California polling location.
After the initial exchange of gunfire, there were victims down at the scene. We had to extract them from the scene.
Authorities also said 2 victims were transported to local hospitals, but they don't know what their condition is as of yet. House Minority Leader Nancy Pelosi attacks FBI Director James Comey for investigating Hillary Clinton's aide Huma Abedin's emails.
So this is like a Molotov cocktail just thrown into a very explosive arena. Shouldn't have done that. Regardless of the impact on the election.
Republicans, meanwhile, retain control of the House, but the Trump campaign believes that their party could have supported them more.
It would really be too bad if we win narrowly, and it's because, not because of the Democrats or this, that, the other. It's because we have former presidents not voting for us.
That was Kellyanne Conway, Trump's campaign manager. A spokesperson for former President George W. Bush told the Wall Street Journal that he didn't vote for any candidate to be president and instead voted for down-the-ticket Republicans. But a friend of Jeb Bush, Marco Rubio, kept his seat in the Senate.
Let me first start by saying this is a lot better than the last time I did one of these in Miami.
Rubio defeated Democratic challenger Patrick Murphy to keep his seat. Former GOP presidential candidate and Marco Rubio's former rival Jeb Bush, congratulated the re-elected senator for his victory and for keeping a seat which is crucial for Republicans to maintain control of the Senate. And Morning Joe host Joe Scarborough tweets this: Michigan, Florida, Virginia, and North Carolina are still up in the air. Republicans hold the House. The Senate looks the same. Stunning. And be sure to stay tuned for more election results with Newsmax TV all night. For right now, let's send it back over to JD.
Thanks very much, Miranda. Remember at home that you too can get in on our conversation. Give us a call at 1-877-Newsmax. That's 1-877-639-7629. Now let's continue our conversation as we continue to await vote tabulation. We're very pleased to be rejoined from Newsmax New York by my colleague Steve Malzberg and by the former Lieutenant Governor of New York State, Betsy McCoy, and again joining us from Holland, Michigan, the former chairman of the House Intelligence Committee and my old colleague from Capitol Hill, Pete Hoekstra. And we appreciate all y'all being here, as we say down south. Still some states where it's too close to call: Pennsylvania, New Hampshire, North Carolina, and Ohio. And Betsy, those are the states where the waiting is getting to be, well, it's a kind of glorious agony, isn't it?
It's glorious agony, but it also really underscores the importance of what Donald Trump has done. He went into those states with a message that other Republicans had failed to provide, which is, we are going to unleash energy production, we are going to bring home manufacturing, we are going to slash corporate tax rates to jumpstart the economy. He had a very clear economic message, and an important message to people in those states who have been all but totally forgotten and written off by Republicans as well as Democrats in Washington, D.C. And to me, one of the most exciting things to see tonight is, despite what everybody in the media said, the builder is vying for the presidency with the blabber. You don't have to be a lifelong blabbing politician to win the presidency. A man who has built a business can run for the presidency and hold his own.
Congressman, you know, the New York Times right now, and it's a snapshot in time, it changes, has a 77% chance for Donald Trump to win the presidency and a 95% chance for the Republicans to keep the Senate. You know, you've been out there, you know, speaking the word on behalf of Donald Trump when it comes to national security. That's something we haven't mentioned really that much, nobody's fault, in the broadcast at all today. I didn't mention it in the two shows I did earlier before coming on with JD here at 7 o'clock. So I don't think we should lose sight of that. You know, the war on terror, keeping America safe, not letting Syrian refugees flood this country. I think that resonated with Americans as well.
Yeah, I think Republicans had a major messaging problem when all they focused on was Benghazi. It was tragic to lose an ambassador and 4 Americans in Benghazi. But the bigger picture here is the total failure of the Clinton administration's war on radical jihadism. Iraq, Libya, Syria, Yemen, Afghanistan, they all became failed states. 500,000 people killed in Syria. Genocide against religious minorities in Iraq and Syria. Millions of refugees flooding into Europe. Millions more displaced. I mean, and Republicans continue to focus on Benghazi, Benghazi, Benghazi. The message and the story is much bigger in terms of their failure.
Panel, let's go back to the phones at 1-877-Newsmax. That's 1-877-639-7629. Let's head to Lawrenceville, Georgia, where David has been waiting patiently. David, welcome to Newsmax TV.
Hi, JD. How are you?
Doing fine, sir. What's your assessment of what we've seen thus far?
Well, I actually don't believe it's any big surprise, to be honest with you. I really felt that Donald Trump was going to pull it out here in the end, and I sure hope and pray that he does for the good of the country. I believe that what we are seeing is exactly what I believed all along, that the people of America that work every day, that get up and go to work, and are just completely fed up with the current administration and everything that's happened in the past 8 years.
Well, that's a great point. Absolutely a great point. And let me ask anybody who wants to weigh in on this, let me direct it to you, Congressman, again. Brexit. I mean, we heard today from the man who spearheaded the whole Brexit vote and situation that he feels another one coming here today. We've been talking about this and talking about this when it comes to flooding our country with refugees, and simply when it comes to people not being honest to pollsters or the polls getting it wrong? People predicted this would be another Brexit. Is that what we're seeing here, sir?
I think what you're seeing is that there are a lot of people who feel alienated from Washington and from the America that they know and love and that they're committed to. The pollsters never interviewed them. I think if they would have called them, they would have given them the answer that said, we're going to vote for Donald Trump. They're not afraid to say it. They just never got in. The pollsters never identified these folks. And what they did is they came out. I can't tell you the number of places that I went where I saw totally new people that I'd never seen involved in the political process in Michigan before. But they were out there, and they were sometimes the most vocal and the most visible Trump supporters.
Betsy McCoy, you talked about.
That's right. And
Go ahead, Betsy.
I was just going to say, I was talking with people at the BBC earlier this evening, and they do see many similarities, but particularly this one with Brexit, because in both cases there were many first-time voters, infrequent voters, and those are the people the pollsters don't get.
Let's take a look at some numbers. Again, in those states that are critical swing states, not ready for any decision from the media outlets, but let's take a look at some of these vote totals. And let's begin in the Keystone State of Pennsylvania. And I would say this has to be a disappointment if this kind of trend holds up. Our records show just 31% of the precincts reporting. Hillary Clinton with a substantial lead, 57 to 39%, perhaps based on that final appearance of the campaign in Philadelphia. But Florida has much more encouraging news for Donald Trump, where he leads by the slimmest of margins. But hey, it'll work, 49 to 48 with 94% of the precincts reporting. And then to the Buckeye State of Ohio, where again we remind you, no Republican has won the presidency without winning Ohio, and Donald Trump continues to lead in that state. Pete Hoekstra, you're in Michigan.
JD, if I could interrupt for a second.
Yes,
CNN just gave Ohio to Donald Trump, giving him at this point 167 electoral votes.
Wow. Ohio to Trump. Peter Hoekstra, we know the rivalry between the Buckeye State and your home state of Michigan. What is it going to take for Michigan to follow suit? What is the margin you've seen there now? 30 seconds.
One of our major newspapers called the state for Hillary Clinton. They're now regretting that call. They called it too early. Michigan, I think, is going to squeak it out yet for Donald Trump here in the next hour or so.
But the major news that Steve Malzberg brought us based on calculations from CNN is that Ohio, a state that has given this country many presidents, may help elect Donald Trump president tonight. The Buckeye State in the column for the billionaire businessman. Now, with this news coming, this adds momentum, and it adds to the electoral vote totals, and it adds to our encouragement to you to give us a call at 1-877-NEWSMAX, and also log on and let us know for whom you voted. You can do that by going to newsmaxpolls.com. Our conversation continues with my old friend, the former majority leader on Capitol Hill, Tom DeLay, and Bill Tucker, Sam Nunberg, and Steve Malzberg as we continue our coverage. America Votes 2016. This is huge news in terms of what we've seen happen before, specifically this. No Republican has won the White House without winning Ohio. And as we discussed just prior to the break, Donald Trump has won the Buckeye State. Now, that victory is tempered somewhat because another state has gone into Hillary Clinton's column. It is the Centennial State of Colorado. While things look close for a time, Hillary Clinton, according to projections, prevails in Colorado. In terms of the electoral vote, 168 in the column for Mr. Trump, 131 for Mrs. Clinton. Let's continue our conversation now, and I'm so happy to be rejoined by my colleague from Newsmax New York, Steve Malzberg, who hosts the Steve Malzberg Show nightly at 7 p.m. Eastern Time here on Newsmax TV. And in turn, we are joined via Skype from Texas by former House Majority Leader Tom DeLay. Tom, as we talked about earlier, the Republicans hang on to the House, but that joy is tempered somewhat tonight, at least in terms of the Florida delegation. Veteran Congressman John Mica loses his bid for re-election, and Charlie Crist, the former Republican governor turned Democrat, who of course lost in his effort as a Republican to go to the U.S. Senate and lost a razor-thin race for governor 2 years ago, Charlie Crist has defeated Republican incumbent David Jolly on the west coast of Florida. So a couple of casualties, but still the Republicans will maintain control over the House. That's important, but as is the focus on the White House. Tell us your impression of Ohio in the Trump column.
Well, JD, let me just say that I just love to see Charlie Crist. I'm not happy that he beat Jolly, but at the same time, I also know how the House works, and Charlie Crist is going to go to serve in the House in the minority. And being a backbencher in the minority is about as useless as anything you can be. So he may have won his race, but he's not going to have a very good time sitting in the Democrat minority. But I'm just really excited. I got to tell you, went into this thinking, as I told you earlier, that probably Clinton could pull this off, but now I'm seeing some light at the end of the tunnel. I mean, even if you look at what's happening in Michigan and in Wisconsin, there's a shot there, and of course we're waiting on North Carolina. But at the same time, there is a pathway, and you just sooner or later you're going to believe Trump when he says he can win this thing.
Well, North Carolina, he's got about a 4-point lead at this point with well over 85% of the vote last I looked. So assuming he wins North Carolina, like you mentioned, Michigan is certainly, he's got a lead there, although it's a little early out there. You convinced me a few hours ago not to worry about the early numbers from Texas. You were 100% correct. So, I mean, at this point, if you had a bet, the New York Times gives Trump an 88% chance at this point in time of winning the White House. What do you say?
Well, I think he's certainly got a shot. I'm not ready to say he's going to win because he still has got to win something like Michigan or Wisconsin in order to pull it off. It would be great if he could finally pull it out. The last time I looked about, which was 15 minutes ago, he was leading in New Hampshire.
Yep.
I got to tell you, the bookies in Las Vegas, I just noticed, I'm not a betting man, but I noticed they've got, the odds are that 80% he's going to win. So who knows? We'll know in a couple of hours, I imagine.
And the stock market, the futures are down or were down over 500 points. And at last I looked, they were down about 480. So they're getting a little nervous that Trump might win as well.
I saw him hit 600 down. So.
Well, you know,
Really?
but that flies in the face. It's so interesting. Wall Street decided that Hillary was a good thing, but boy, you'd think financially, cutting taxes, doing the thing Trump wants to do would help Main Street and Wall Street. Tell you what, we may be coming to your street if you call us at 1-877-NEWSMAX. That's 1-877-639-7629. Joe just did phone in from Cranston, Rhode Island, and he joins us right now. Hi, Joe. Hello, Joe. Oh, gee, Joe, the tension got too much. Maybe others will call in right now. Tom DeLay, we really appreciate your time, and we'll keep watching this thing as it could be a very pleasantly historical night for the Republican Party. Tom, thanks a bunch. We really appreciate it, sir. Now,
Great being with you
you
guys.
bet. We really appreciate it. Now, from Newsmax New York, someone who was once in the employ of Donald Trump during this political cycle, also did some work for Ted Cruz, and he's been offering his analysis to us. He is Sam Nunberg, and likewise with us, our Newsmax TV colleague, Bill Tucker. So Steve Malzberg has lots of company there at Newsmax New York. Sam, our first time talking to you, pal. Sam, I just got to find out, man, your take on what's happening tonight.
Well, Donald is certainly overperforming or performing his numbers that were public in states like Florida and North Carolina. I've been working a race in North Carolina, and they just called it for Senator Burr, and I do think Donald will end up pulling that out. And I do think he'll end up pulling out Florida. And the good indication for him is that he won Iowa and Ohio. Now, why? I call those states 75-75. 75% white, 75% non-college educated. And what does that mean? That means that he's won those two states. And when you look at that supposed alleged Blue Lake wall that Hillary was going to have with Michigan and Wisconsin, I do think that that can move over to Michigan for Mr. Trump. So we'll see. On the other hand, Hillary seems to be holding a couple walls that she's promised. She's already won Virginia. She's already won Colorado. She's going to win Nevada. And she's already won Pennsylvania. I assume they've already called it, but she will in Pennsylvania. So I think at worst case scenario, Hillary Clinton will have a little over 270. But I think Donald, has an outside shot should he be able to pull a miracle in Michigan here. Yeah, we'll find out.
And Bill, again, when at this point in the night, we are looking at Michigan, a 4-point lead for Donald Trump with 37% of the vote in, and Wisconsin, a 2-point lead with almost 50% of the vote in. The word is wow.
Well, let's
be
a little careful.
That was for Bill Tucker. Go ahead, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Bill.
Yeah, no, the word is really big wow, because in Michigan and Wisconsin, he has a legitimate shot. Hasn't been called yet, but he is in the lead, slightly in the lead. So it's very possible that Trump could take Wisconsin, Michigan, Ohio, North Carolina, and as Sam just told us, we got over 99% of the votes counted down in Florida. Trump remains about 130,000 votes in the lead. It's very possible he could take Florida. And you've got financial markets right now absolutely freaking out at the utter uncertainty of all of this. Stocks in Asia are already beginning to fall. Dow futures, just looking over at the futures, they're down over 700 points. People are worried. People are freaked out because what the markets don't like more than anything else in the world is uncertainty. And suddenly, we've got big uncertainty, and Nate Silver is sitting down there running his math again, trying to figure out what the odds have changed to.
Well, we take a look at this
thing.
thing.
We really did see.
Go ahead, Steve.
One thing we really did see from these exit polls were, Hillary's unfavorables were about, she was under Donald Trump nationally. And while people hated, they hated Mr. Trump's vulgarity, quote unquote, they were disgusted by Hillary's emails almost as much. And that's, by the way, even with the mainstream media supporting her and defending her, and Comey coming out with that letter. And this is on Election Day with exit polls. What I do think is one thing we do know out of this is that regardless of the outcome of this, and regardless of who is elected, and hopefully Donald Trump will be, but worst case scenario, should it be Madame Secretary Clinton, who, by the way, was a failed Secretary of State, she's going to be a very weak president, and she'll be very weak for re-election in 2020.
Well, let's not. There is still a long way to go.
We don't know.
We just don't know.
100% right. We don't know.
Well, we certainly appreciate the insights and analysis. Sam Nunberg there, Bill Tucker, and of course Steve Malzberg. And again, an appeal to you to give us a call at 1-877-NEWSMAX. That's 1-877-639-7629. My quick check of my watch was not because I'm not having a good time with you. It's just keeping track of what states are closing their polls next at the top of the hour. But speaking of polls, your chance to involve yourself in our poll, and that is just tell us who you voted for when you log on to, you will see it right here on your screen here in just a second, newsmaxpolls.com. Pardon me for the momentary brain cramp. But that's newsmaxpolls.com to let us know who you voted for, and also to give us a call at 1-877-NEWSMAX. That's 1-877-639-7629. Will Trump hang on in Florida? It's got the makings of a historic night, and we'll have more right after this. There is big news from North Carolina, with 90% of the vote in and Donald Trump maintaining a 4 percentage point lead, 50-46. Donald Trump projected as the winner of the Old North state as Mr. Trump's numbers continue to head northward in the Electoral College. Donald J. Trump now with 183 electoral votes to 131 projected electoral votes for Hillary Rodham Clinton. We continue on what is becoming a surprising and historic night as we continue to monitor these results. Let's welcome in from Newsmax New York, Bill Tucker, who joins us again now, and also from Newsmax Washington, pollster John Zogby. John, this news from North Carolina, another brick in the wall for Trump on his way to increasing his electoral tally.
It is indeed, in one of the states that I was closely watching. Trump winning North Carolina means that the African American vote did not come out in substantial numbers for Hillary Clinton, as it had prior to that, for Barack Obama. Even in the slight loss by Obama, Hillary underperformed clearly in North Carolina.
1-877-NEWSMAX, 1-877-639-7629 for you to get in on the conversation. But let's get Bill back in this thing. Bill, to watch this tonight, it's as if right now, and we know there's still some swing states there, but this pickup of North Carolina, to use Trumpian English, is huge.
Oh, it is indeed huge. I mean, this is making for really entertaining watching. For anybody who's a political wonk who's looking at this whole thing, it is a reality show on steroids. Beginning of the evening, nobody would have said it looked remotely like this. We were ready to hand it over based on exit polling and based on early polling to Mrs. Clinton, and that is just not the case. And it is fascinating to look like. I can't tell right now. It looks like maybe Michigan and Wisconsin might be going Trump's way. It was a very close look the last time I checked. I don't know if anybody's officially called it yet, but if you add those in with North Carolina and this slim lead that he's got down in Florida, there's a bombshell building in the east. We'll see what it does to the west.
And John Zogby, as you've monitored these numbers, what do you see potentially? Is there a big pothole awaiting Trump somewhere in these states that have yet to be decided?
No pothole. No, I'm adding Florida into the Trump column. I mean, it's over 100,000 votes with 99% of the votes in. So I get Trump up to 257. Now, victory in Michigan, where he's been leading all night, victory in Michigan, and where Hillary Clinton underperformed in Wayne County and in Detroit, I mean, which is really very significant. Victory in Michigan puts Trump over the top. But even the fact, as Bill just pointed out, Trump is very competitive in Wisconsin as well. I think he probably wins Arizona. I'm still not sure we're going to know who won the presidency by bedtime tonight, but it's close.
We have got big news coming in right now, as I understand it. And John Zogby, you previewed this a second ago, saying Florida belongs in the Trump column. Now the Associated Press is projecting Donald Trump the winner of the Sunshine State. And to the point you were making earlier, Bill, about Wisconsin, if we can base this, and there it is, officially Donald Trump prevailing in the Sunshine State, but now get a load of this up in the Badger State. We heard from the dominant media culture how Russ Feingold was going back to the Senate after 6 years out. Wrong. Media outlets report Ron Johnson prevails in that Senate seat. So Ron Johnson came from behind to win. With that, now, John, as a pollster, take us through this. Granted, every race can be different, but with Ron Johnson pulling out this Senate seat, what does that portend for the presidential race in Wisconsin?
It portends that Wisconsin is a hell of a lot more competitive than the pre-election polls suggested that it is. The top of the ticket is turning out to have been very weak. Look, I've made this point. In the exit polls nationwide, Barack Obama has a 54% job approval rating among those who voted nationally, and Hillary Clinton looks like she's polling about 46% nationally. She has underperformed, and I think that Hillary Clinton was the issue tonight in a number of these states.
And again, just in case you're joining us, because the news is so huge, Florida now in the Trump column. Donald Trump apparently pulling off what all the media outlets said was doubtful. It looks like he may roll the table. You know, Bill Tucker, there you are in New York, and we take a look at our friends at other cable cousins and the alphabet networks, and the prevailing mood and what we've read from WikiLeaks, the way in which they absolutely loathe Donald Trump. It'll be interesting to see if our friends at other television outlets will be eating the proverbial crow as the evening goes into the morning hours.
Well, you know, it's really interesting, JD, just to that point. I think that the networks, because they've been so unabashed in their coverage and their support of Hillary Clinton, have actually shamed a lot of people into not admitting that they were going to vote for Donald Trump, which made the polls unreliable. I had that feeling going along, but I think we're beginning to see that borne out, and I'd love to hear John's thoughts on that. And one quick thing, Nate Silver, a little earlier in the evening, had tweeted, if in fact they give Trump Florida, the odds of Mrs. Clinton are cratering in chances of winning the election. So I'm sure Mr. Silver is back with his calculator trying to figure out what comes next.
And that brings us to Brother Zogby again. John, 30 seconds to the point Bill was making, the media's disdain for Donald Trump.
I think it came down from the top of the line in all of the networks. Stop this guy. And frankly, had they just been honest and issued a disclaimer before their coverage, we are against Donald Trump and so is out in the field reporting, I think it would have been a hell of a lot more honest than it really was.
And what does it say? Well, it gives us the chance again to point out that we're not the media, we're Newsmax TV. We're not part of that corporate media. We're glad you're watching us. John, thanks very much for your time. Bill, as always, and you at home, a chance for you to weigh in at 1-877-NEWSMAX, and also tell us who you voted for by going to newsmaxpolls.com. We're approaching 11 and we'll be back.